Welcome to the future.
Who's this clown?
Not clown. Joker.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Nobody tampers with the equipment except Tony Stark.
Good idea.
United, the Avengers are strong.
Hawkeye, hands off.
Fool! Have you forgotten my invincible magnetic power?
Not this time, Magneto.
My mutant brain senses danger.
Something unseen is slowly spreading its poisons, edging tempers.
Think carefully before you do this.
You filthy criminals.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are live on a Sunday. Let me make sure everything is on and working properly. It doesn't seem like my desktop audio is working, so let me double check that. I don't know if they can or not. No. Oh, that's okay. Well, they can't hear you, so let's see. Desktop audio. Patrick, can you hear Nate if he's talking right now? Just give me a heads up. I don't know why it's doing that. Hey, Jaden, how's it going? Can you hear Nathan? Can you hear Nathan? Can you hear music at all? Well, hold on. Well, not yet. Just now there's music playing. No, you can't. Okay. Let's figure this out. What's going on? I hate it when this happens. Bear with us, folks. We're having audio difficulties. Properties. Okay. Desktop audio. Default. Digital audio. What the creep? All right, let's see. Let's see here. Let me delete the audio. Remove. No, that's not true. And I'm going to add your... Okay. Okay. Oh my God. All right. Audio input. No, audio capture. Add source. Correct. Talk? No. What the heck? What is going on? Why isn't it working? Stop. Stop it. All right. Maybe I'll just pick my headphones. Maybe that'll work. No, but then you'll be low. What the hell is going on? It's done this before where like the audio just decides like, nah, we're not going to work today. All right, we're going to go to properties. So we got properties. All right. Let me get rid of it. And then what we'll do is we'll set up a new one. Remove. Man, this sucks. I haven't done shit. It just doesn't work. All right. Add a new source. We'll say desktop C. Man, live shows sometimes.
Am I right?
And then we want headphone speakers. I guess, yeah, I guess my headset. Let's see how that does. I think we can hear you now. Try talking.
Hello? Hello?
Yep. I see bars.
Oh, hello?
Anybody else? Hey, Jaden, Patrick, do you hear Nathan? Do you hear music?
We're talking about Canadian delicacies here. What are we talking about? No problem.
Too loud there? Let's put it back to 5. What do I have you at?
What is Timmy's? Patrick, you're gonna have to tell us what Timmy's is. I don't.
Yeah, because we don't know what that is.
I will say I went to Canada for. Oh wait.
I think we're good. Jaden says he heard him. Patrick says music. All right, I think we're ready to start the show.
Let's do it.
Nathan, if you don't mind, can you open the stream on your computer and just make sure you sound like your levels sound good? Like, I don't want you to sound blown out or too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're doing that, I'm going to take care of some business, as we always do at the beginning of our shows. So, we've got two things that we need to talk about.
Wait,
Actually,
now I can hear myself. Hold on.
Wait.
But it's not you, it's me.
Okay.
Okay, now keep going. You're good.
Okay, all right. We've got three things to talk about. First is a super easy one. We are moving the show. So the show is now moving to Sundays at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. That might change later on down the road. We might change it to 7 o'clock, but right now we're going to stick to 8. So Sundays at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. That gives everybody, all of our viewers and ourselves, a little bit more time to read our beefy hauls because, it's they get hefty sometimes, and to read them so far. Yeah, it's a lot to read. So we're moving the show to Sundays. So Sundays, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time here on YouTube. That's when the show is going to be. So that's the first part of business. Second thing that we got to talk about is our Two Fat Guys Pool List Mystery Pool monthly comic book subscription service, which is sponsored by Collected Comics and Games and Brainy Comics. We always talk about this, but for the month of May, we are giving away for the big key that we usually, we have one big key that we give away every month. And the key that we're giving away this month is the Amazing Spider-Man 252, the first appearance of the black suit in Amazing Spider-Man. Boom, boom, boom. So we're giving this bad boy away this month. So you have until the end of May to sign up for our subscription service to get a chance to win this. You also get, if you sign up, you will get one store exclusive, 4 to 7 back issues, anywhere between bronze, silver, or modern age books, and then that one big key. The store exclusive that we're giving away is Batman the Detective #1. So everybody that signs up this month will be getting this kick-ass store exclusive Batman the Detective #1. If you haven't read this yet, it's actually pretty cool. Batman literally punches a ghost. Punches a ghost in half, pa, and he was totally he was ready for it. He went to London with the intent of punching ghosts. So that's just a little snippet there for Batman if you haven't read it yet. But everyone will be getting that in their mystery pool if you've signed up. So if you want to go to brainycomics.com, Nate can put the link in the chat later on. So if you haven't signed up yet, go ahead, sign up, help us support our LCS. We do not make anything on that box. It's all going to our LCS Collected in Fort Worth. We just partnered with him because it's our way of trying to help out the store, make some more money for him, and just support, because that's all we want to do is we want to support our LCS. So and before we start the show, one last piece of business that we have to talk about is our milestone giveaways. So currently, last I checked, we are at 207 subscribers. Whew, that's a lot. And we're trying to hit 250. That's our next milestone that we have to hit. And if we hit 250 subscribers, we are giving away this 9.8 CGC graded Dark Knight metal tie-in Batman Who Laughs #1. So we will be giving this away to one lucky subscriber of the channel when we hit 250 subscribers. So make sure, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, give us a like, comment in the chat, do everything, please. We're trying to give away this bad boy, and then once we hit that milestone, we're on to the next one, which is 500 subscribers. If you've seen our slab video, you know what that slab is. It's a good one. It's a pretty hefty one.
It is pretty hefty one.
But we want to give it away. But before we can give that away, we got to give away this Dark Knight's Batman Who Laughs tie-in. So yeah, that's the business of tonight. We're going to go ahead and get the show started because we already started late because of audio technical issues. So let's get the show started. So we're going to
hold on. I've got to try. I've got to talk to chat here real quick.
Okay.
Patrick I should have known Timmy's was short slang for Tim Hortons, which when I made my first trek to Canada last year, I made sure to go to, and it was everything I hoped and dreamed. It's literally exactly a Dunkin' Donuts, to the T. Nice. Except I love that they call their donut holes Timbits.
You know what?
Timbits.
I literally saw a TikTok.
Yes, about the guy
Timbits, and he's
about them being too polite to let the guy eat the Timbits.
One last Timbit, and it's like Baby Yoda's. Yeah, that's a fucking classic right there.
Also, Stefan, thank you for the howdy. Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure
We're all caught up in chat.
Yep. Good.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we're going to kick off the show with our one Heroes Reborn comic this week, and that is Heroes Reborn number 3 from Jason Aaron, and we are focusing on Blur. So Marvel's version of Flash, essentially. You know, I actually like this issue a hell of a lot more than issue 2. Issue 2 was more Hyperion centric, and this one is more obviously Blur centric, but we get a new villain in this book. Like, we got new villains in Hyperion, but there were so many in Hyperion's issue that you couldn't focus on one, right?
Yeah.
And in this issue, we get Silver Witch, which is basically the Scarlet Witch absorbing Quicksilver after he dies in this in this universe, and so she can make spells really fast, lightning speed spells. And that's really why I liked this issue mostly, was because of her. I like that character a lot. And Jason Aaron continues this idea of, it seems like heroes that were part of the Avengers team or heroes, you know, they know something's off, right? And so we get that same thing here with Silver Witch. She basically, you know, while she's doing her bad things in this, you know, being a villain, in the back of her mind, she's like, this isn't right. Like, something's off. And so I am digging that a lot in this Heroes Reborn event. I mean, there's not a lot to grasp onto, I think, but to me, that's the coolest thing in this series.
Yeah, I will say that it's definitely been it was a big peak with issue 1, and it's been a little bit of a slowdown. I do think that if you take it for what it is, which so Jason Aaron has his own like email list that he sends out, and he sent out a couple the past couple weeks as these books came out, talking about these and talking about his inspiration and like why he wrote them, and basically he was talking about how like this was his opportunity to do something fun in the Marvel universe as a whole, multiverse, to use characters that aren't his, but to write original stories with no repercussions. And like, yeah, that makes sense. I think the biggest problem is it's like, but why? Like, I totally get like that. Why would anyone not want to write their own stories with their own characters, or with Marvel characters getting to do anything they want? You want to make Spider-Man's head blow up? Boom, you can do it. You want to take Scarlet Witch and fuse her with Enchantress and make a character? Bam, you can do that here. But like, besides just for Jason Aaron's whim, why are we doing this?
Marvel needed a summer event, and they didn't like the one that they had scheduled, so that's my guess.
Yes. So, yeah, this issue, I didn't get a lot out of it. I actually really did enjoy the art, though. I had to look up the artist. I thought maybe the artist was like a guy that's almost just came over from DC or something, because this feels very much like DC's house art. Much more like DC's house art than Marvel's house art.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I also am discouraged that what was essentially the best story, or the whole reason why issue 1 was so good, issue 2 and 3, that little story arc that Ed McGuinness is drawing, is being relegated again to just 3 panels in the back, the 3 pages in the back.
He better be like, Ed McGuinness better have like the entire Heroes Return issue. Like, if he doesn't, then I'm gonna give this event like an F, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, what is he doing?
It's confusing. It's very confusing. But I would say that if you remove all of we're approaching this, I think, with a little bit of baggage too, with
very true,
Jason Aaron's Avenger run and stuff like that. So if you just look at this and just say, hey, I think people are going to look back at this event as a standalone thing. You know, there are a lot of readers that aren't current, and they just say, hey, what's a good run I should read, or something like that. What's a good event? You know, I bet 10 years from now, people are going to be like, you know what, you know, Jason Aaron's Heroes Reborn was a fun standalone event. Don't need to know what's going on. Don't need to know any other context. Just read it, and I'm sure it'll be really great. But for where we're at right now, not super happy about it.
It just feels really, it feels kind of like an excuse for just an event. Professor Comics, what's up? I'm glad you're here. I don't know if you heard, but we are moving the shows to Sunday, so hopefully that'll help keep you, if you want to, be here more often. We're moving the show to Sunday just because we feel like it helps out everybody. It helps all of our patrons, and it helps us too to kind of like really get into the material and not rush through reading. Yes. The one thing I will say also that I liked about this issue was, so the Blur, what I like is they're pulling little aspects of other heroes and their origin stories and kind of fitting them in to their, their versions of their origins. So like Blur, his Marvel origin really is, he kind of takes a page out of Doctor Strange's book and meets with the Ancient One and learns how to slow down. Right, and that's how he resolves his issue in this book, which I thought was kind of cool. I did like that mystical, almost cosmic backstory, and the artwork really played to that. In a nutshell, Silver Witch blames Blair for the death of her brother. And so she ends up in this book stealing Blair's soul, or his astral plane self. And if you are disconnected from your astral plane self for too long, you die. You wither away. And so she pulls a Heroes Reborn version of House of M and basically goes, no more speed, and kills his speed power. And he's left to like figure out a way to try to get his astral plane self back into his body. And so then we get the origin story of him going to the Ancient One and learning how to like literally slow down and like take things in, because you're able to see more when you really just kind of breathe and let the moment happen. Whereas with Blur, it's like he's constantly trying to figure out how many TVs he has because he forgets, and watching multiple programs and dating multiple women. Like he just kind of loses himself. So I did like that aspect. I think Blur's Heroes Reborn story is a hell of a lot stronger in context to Hyperion's. I felt like Hyperion's unfortunately felt rushed, and this one, like, I thought we got to know Blur a little bit better than like Hyperion. We're like, yes, he's like Superman, he's a dick, he's super patriotic, cool, meh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which is funny because we got 2 issues for Hyperion's backstory and getting to learn him. We got the Imperial Guard issue and the main issue. Right. So I find that interesting.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, you're right. The event seems to be winding down. We're essentially, so we know what the next story is going to be, which actually is kind of cool because we're going to get Thanos and the Power Rings with I don't remember the guy's name, the next character.
I don't either, Quantum or something like that.
Essentially the Green Lantern equivalent is coming up next. So that, I mean, that sounds fun. But we know where things are going, right? So we'll see how that goes. But overall, I would say if I were to rank them 1 through 3, obviously the first one was 1, and then I'd put this one at number 2, and then Hyperion at 3. If I had to rank them currently of what we already have,
I'd flip it. I'd put this one last for me.
Really? Oh, okay. That, yeah. Like you said in the comic book haul video, it doesn't, it's okay to be wrong sometimes.
Oh, okay. I honestly think it's because Hyperion reminds me of Homelander from The Boys, which I find amusing. So that's probably the only reason why.
Nice. Either way, artwork killer. I think that's what carried the book really a lot. But for me personally, I did like the Blur story better than Hyperion's, and they've been kind of teasing that Silver Witch might actually jump out of this event. And I wouldn't be mad about it. I like the character. I like it a lot.
Yeah. One thing that I'm still really hesitant on is having Marvel really start to muddy the multiversity of it all. Which is obviously, like, there are people, Miles Morales and
right.
Gwen, we've got these other America Chavez maybe. So but I don't know. I don't know that I want just a bunch of people from different Earths running around. But
well,
whatever.
I feel like Marvel
to DC.
I feel like Marvel is pairing up itself or gearing up itself for another, unlimited or ultimate universe. Maybe call it something different, and then another Secret Wars. Like it just seems like there's just a kind of like a rinse and repeat.
Horrible.
I know, but it just feels like that's where they're going. We'll get 2 or 3 years of another ultimate, but we'll call it something else universe, and then we'll have another Secret Wars.
The last one was 15 years.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out.
I hope not.
I don't know. It just feels like that's what they're doing because there's rumor. If you want to jump to DC, there's rumor that another Crisis event is about to happen. So it just feels like it's a rinse and repeat. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying.
What are you talking about?
I heard rumor. I don't know if it was on Twitter or if it was someone that we watched on YouTube, but they said something about they're possibly DC's possibly building up to another Crisis event style comic book event. That
literally just happened.
Correct. I'm just saying. I'm just telling.
What are we even going to reset? That we just restarted with Infinite Frontier.
Remember, if you try to use logic to explain comics, like you said the other day, it doesn't make sense. So, I'm just saying, it feels like that's where we're going, and hopefully, maybe you're right. Maybe Jason Aaron's just going to be contained in this event. He's just doing it for fun. But I feel like Marvel literally had a summer event ready to go in that Dark Ages thing, which was an Elseworld story, and they were like, nah. Let's just take some stuff from, and again, we say this all the time, Aaron's Avenger run and just make it a summer event. And that's what this feels like, for better or worse. So I am looking forward to the next issue just because of Thanos is going to be in it. Like that's one of my favorite villains ever. So we'll see. Anyway, that's Heroes Reborn number 3. We know what's coming. So next up, we have Way of X number 2. We're jumping into our X books. Holy shit, this issue was insane.
Do the thing.
Oh, you want me to do the thing?
Do the thing.
Like this thing?
I don't know because I can't hear it.
Actually, it's going through my... Damn it, dude. I have not been ready for this show at all. I've got my audio jacked up, so let me switch this really quick. But this is Nate's pick of the week.
This is my pick of the week. Do you want me to just talk about it while you try to...
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that.
So I have a lot to say about this book. I'll try to keep it not like 30 minutes long, but where to begin?
There's a lot.
We pick up with Nightcrawler running into an astral plane projection of David Haller or Legion, and basically Legion is asking for help, saying, "Hey, I'm not." My body is currently having issues and I need some help and you're gonna have to help me or it could like blow up the whole world and that would be bad. So Nightcrawler basically jumps to Krakoa to gather a small little team that is going to help him on this mission with David Haller. Before they go, there's this really interesting piece that won't come back up until the very end of the book, but Legion essentially goes into Nightcrawler's head real quick and is digging around in there and notices evidence that someone has already been inside of Nightcrawler's consciousness, digging around in there, doing something. We don't know what. He pulls out like this poisonous coin. So he goes into his head and it's like a big, like super classic Nightcrawler, like piratey themed thing, and on the crest of the ship is a coin. He pulls it off and hands it to him and says, "Uh-oh, someone's been in here already." My favorite scene, I guess, from this whole thing though, is this little glimpse into everyday life on Krakoa that we get, which I find absolutely hilarious. Like, I think Cy Spurrier is a really funny writer in general, and I think this just sort of exemplifies that. We go to the what do they call it? The Green Lagoon?
It's the bar, right?
It's the bar, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the main bar is. They go there, Dazzler's putting on a show, Fabian Cortez and Dr. Nemesis are sitting at the bar. Cortez is sulking because of his recent firing from Sword. And
which honestly I didn't think we'd ever see him again, to be 100%. I didn't think we'd see him again.
Well, here we go. And Dr. Nemesis basically says like, oh, like you he said, you must be pretty bad when you're sitting around listening to this oral leprosy on purpose. And I was like, damn, they gotta do Dazzler like that?
Rough.
And then he's like, what, you don't enjoy Dazzler? I have to read this word for word, and let me see if I can actually get through it. Because it's kind of a tongue twister, but it's hilarious. He says, well, let me see. Do I enjoy being stabbed repeatedly in my parietal lobe by the specious word farts of a weaponized human disco ball? No. No, I do not. I don't know, man. Like that's just super clever to me. And that's totally shows Spurrier's like sense of humor, like British sense of humor. But essentially, you know, we get almost like a 2-page. I'm sure this is setting up something later, but also like a little glimpse in the life, because we also get a conversation between Pixie. I don't remember this girl's name because I'm not familiar with her, but Pixie and another girl that was from the first issue. And she's basically asking Pixie to ask Mercury to go with them to the Hellfire Gala because she wants her to be her date, but she doesn't want it to be awkward. And then, you know, at one point, Nightcrawler runs into Lost, which is the character where you're introduced into the first time. Jane says, destroyed her whole life. I know, man. I've never seen Dazzler be burned like that before. It was harsh. And Nightcrawler, you know, sees Lost, the gangly woman that makes everyone barf, and is like, yeah, sorry, like, I really want to talk to you, but I can't right now. And so he grabs Pixie, grabs Dr. Nemesis, and they are off to the coordinates that David Haller has left in Nightcrawler's head, which is to a destroyed Orcus facility. Inside this facility, they find David Haller's brain in a jar. Literally, that's it. That's all that's left of his body. It's just his brain in a jar. And I think in this issue, we are really getting some setup for some big stuff. Turns out that Orcus has been using, so Legion has like multiple personalities, and each of those personalities can manifest powers, and when he is removed from the initial psyche, he can't control those different psyches, thus the powers go crazy. And so what Orcus is trying to do is harness the powers of David's psyche to attack Krakoa. We even get a glimpse into David's current psyche. Nightcrawler and Pixie jump in there, and literally there's like a scene of a guy like chewing on innards, like on intestines and stuff, and it's actually, I wasn't expecting it to get that intense, but it did, and I enjoyed it. But the overall premise here is that they're trying to weaponize Legion. And they have got to find a way to, you know, stop this from happening. And they essentially come to the conclusion that, like, yeah, this, I mean, we have to kill Brain, right? Like this, they're using this right now, and they find proof that, essentially what they've been doing is running multiple simulations on how to destroy Krakoa, and that the longer they keep this going, the closer they're going to get to that goal. And that they might have already started a plan to get it there.
Right. So, from my understanding of that, it's basically they're running the simulation to show that in them finding or achieving immortality, right? They have nothing to gain nor lose, so they just end up driving themselves crazy. At least that's what was happening in the simulation.
That's exactly what was happening in the simulation. So, he calls it the derangement of the infinite. He basically says when everything's possible and nothing matters, meaninglessness begets alienation, desire leads to sadism and self-destruction. Before you know it, your neighbor's eating your face while you're too busy pouring anthrax in the water supply and you don't even care.
Damn.
And so, you know, we gotta stop this. We gotta stop this problem.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the part where Dr. Nemesis is like, oh, is this, are we killing someone? Like, I got this crazy gun, but Nightcrawler takes the gun and is like, no, y'all leave. And he's about to, you know, do what Nightcrawler does. He's about to fall into his pattern and say, you know, his, I don't remember what that prayer is called, but the you know, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And then he stops and is like, you know what? Never mind. Just puts a bullet in David Haller's brain in a jar, and then that's it.
I like that a lot because it was so out of character, and you could see him like fighting his, you know, like you're saying, like his typical Nightcrawler shit. But then he realized, like, in order to, you know, save Legion, but also move forward in his agenda, which he doesn't really know what it is yet, he had to do it.
Well, we get a word page after that, which is another excerpt from this pretend Bible, essentially. I don't know, you know, because it's called the Book of Something Blank. It's like blanked out and stuff. But this is essentially like the mutant Bible that he has written in some type of future or whatever.
Right.
And this literally what he says. He says, you know, I killed him. By doing so, I permitted his rebirth. That, I believe, was my first true step toward the way. An ugly act, an act that broke every piece of thoughtless conditioning that I'd ever accumulated, but which catalyzed an act of creation whose value I cannot now understate. It basically says exactly what you just said. Like, it's like every thoughtless condition, everything I just did because I thought I had to do it. Like, he literally started saying that prayer and then realized, wait, this doesn't make any sense. What I'm doing here is literally good. Like, not killing him would be like the sin here.
Right.
And so, I'm very, very interested in this type of progression from Nightcrawler as a independent character, and then also just the whole hearts and minds aspect of Krakoa as well.
Yeah, for sure.
We end the book basically with David Haller's resurrection, which is quite interesting. It almost like reverberates through Krakoa. You can see a lot of people. Nightcrawler has some thought bubbles, basically talking about like how still and quiet it was, and how you could almost like feel his rebirth, even though people are being rebirthed all the time.
Right.
It was just like this extra knowing that was going on.
It basically, like, everyone stopped in Krakoa for his resurrection.
And they bring this husk back, and at first he's just laying there, and he has this face where you just like, there's nothing there. It's just the husk.
Yeah. And
Professor X turns away and says, like, I can't do it. I'm not going to use Cerebro to do this. Like, I can't do it. And then literally the next panel, David Haller stands up and says, yeah, don't worry about it. Did it myself.
I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Don't need you to do that for me. So he literally somehow forces his own consciousness back into a husk of his body.
Yeah, dude, it's so weird.
This is the one point where Spurrier goes, comics. Now be quiet and let me finish. Like,
comics.
I also like how he makes fun of Professor X's helmet and calls it his astronaut helmet. And I find it really interesting too. We're getting a little bit more glimpse of what Magneto is going to be doing at Hellfire Gala. He approaches him and says, you know, I've got an Omega level mutant project that's underway that's world shaking. And David Haller's like, nah, I don't trust you. Go away. And Professor X tries to jump in there and he says, nope, don't trust you either. So shut up. He's like, everybody here's got secrets and shadows except this guy. And he puts his arm around Nightcrawler. He's like, this guy is the only one that's genuinely like curious and trying to figure out what's going on and is, you know, actually like concerned with the hearts and minds of Krakoa, which is what I said earlier. And because that's what he says right at the end. He's like, so I'm going to chill with him, which I think is pretty cool if we're actually going to get Legion as a reoccurring character on this book. I very much assumed that he would just kind of show up for a few issues and then be gone. So
it looks like he's here to play.
Yeah, it looks like he is here. And then him and Legion and Nightcrawler kind of walk off, and they're just like, okay, well, so like, what are we gonna do? Like, what's going on? And Nightcrawler says, you know, do you have any idea who the Patchwork Man is? And big
spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Massive spoilers.
Big spoiler alert for literally all of Hickman run X-Men, just so you know. David Haller goes, yeah, I know exactly who it is. It's Onslaught. And he's here.
Shit.
And that's a big whoa.
Massive. Dude, that's going to be...
Yes, I think this is going to have a really long-standing ramifications, and I'm curious now because you never really know with comics. I'm curious if this is a thing that Cy Spurrier brought on and said, "Hey, I want to find a way to introduce Onslaught," and then Hickman's like, "Yeah, cool," or if this was really good, like planned to be here the whole time. I say the whole time, probably not from the very beginning, but I almost wonder if this is a Jonathan Hickman thing or if this is a Cy Spurrier thing, because I feel like the ramifications of this are going to be larger than just the Way of X book.
Yeah, no, I think this is a Hickman thing, and I think Hickman probably has had this in his minds. I mean, dude, he's a long haul writer, right? Like he writes for the long haul, so I would not be surprised if it was Hickman, and this is going to be one of many things that are going to just completely, because you got to think about it. Like in Hoxpox, we saw so many different lives through Moira, and we were like, oh my god, how can you top that? Like literally. Yeah. How can you top the 11th life, right? Like, yeah, or no, 9th life.
Whichever.
That one was the craziest one. I mean, people died. Apocalypse ended up becoming the hero. Like all kinds of crazy shit. So like, you got to think that the 10th life is going to be balls to the wall, and nothing says that more than Onslaught, and probably a hell of a lot more characters that we just haven't even thought of yet that are coming. And like. Comic Book Herald probably has a list of all the characters that he talks about it all the time. Yeah. So, did you talk about the astral gem that Legion pulled out of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the very beginning, where he basically says that someone's been in his mind and that's like evidence of someone probing his mind before.
Right. Sorry, I was trying to work the audio, but
yeah, I brought that up.
I think and Harold brought this up as well. That's a big thing. Like, how many other people have had their minds, have something inserted into them as well? Is this is it Professor X doing this when they get resurrected? Does he put a little thing inside their brain to make them, just go with Krakoa? Or, is it somebody else? It feels like it's Professor X.
Yes. But
we'll have to wait and see. This issue was packed full of stuff. And I'm right there with Harold. This is definitely one of my top 3 X books right now.
By the way, we keep saying Harold over and over again. We're talking about Comic Book Harold. He's got a YouTube page. I went ahead and threw the link in there.
There you go.
If you are into X books, you definitely need to be checking this.
That is a
out.
Must if you're reading X books, because
this guy is the current authority.
Yeah, he breaks down. He breaks down comic X books. I mean, he's got reading orders. He's got back issues that you need to read if you really want to dive into it. I mean, I do not watch one of his videos before our show just so I can really understand.
I actually missed this one. I need to watch this one.
It's really good. This one is really good. He really touches it, and he dives into the whole what Magneto's doing too. That's where I got my he breaks it down. So definitely recommend that to anybody that is not watching Comic Book Herald's videos. If you're reading X books, check him out. He is kicking ass over there. But that is Way of X number 2. I don't know if I fixed it, but Jaden, let me know if you hear this. This is Nate's pick of the week.
Oh,
I can't hear it in my headphones anymore. You can't?
I can't. Well, I never could. So
yeah. So let us know if you hear that. If not, something's really jacked up with my audio. But we're gonna go on to the next book, and that is Wolverine.
Well, you
number
moved on
12.
To Wolverine. I gotta go check on my baby.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So Wolverine number 12. We've been talking about this book for a while in the sense that we've just been dealing with vampires for a while now in this book, and I don't know why. We're very concerned with vampires in this book, and I'm not really digging it. That being said, we have potentially gotten closer to closing the book on vampires. So essentially what's been going on is Dracula has been trying his hardest to get a hold of Logan's blood, because Logan's blood has a regenerative obviously regenerative properties, and so the thinking is if they get a hold of his blood, they can stay out in the daylight and be like normal people, and this vampire state can actually flourish not just at nighttime but during the day as well. And so essentially what we have in this book is Logan resisting the idea of getting captured, and then Omega Red ends up showing up and goes, hey, I'm fucking done being essentially a slave to the vampires. I have an idea that can basically get them out of the game. We can take them out. And Logan does not trust, for most obvious reasons, Omega Red, and says, you know what, no, I'm not, there's no way I'm going to do this. And Beast is like, he might be onto something here. Essentially what we get in this book is the X-Force, Krakoa, the Five, they create essentially clones of Logan, actual clones of Logan, and they don't get Professor X to put his conscious in these new clones because Logan isn't dead yet. He hasn't died. And what they do is they make his blood poisonous to vampires. And so what they do is they make it look like they capture Logan, the vampires capture Logan, and they start siphoning off his blood. And at first it looks like it's working, and then all of a sudden, boom, the blood that they're consuming is tainted and it's killing them.
Ooh.
That was cool.
That's cool.
That's out of this entire vampire arc, that has probably been the coolest way of disposing the vampires. Now, we don't know if it's official yet. We don't know if this ends up killing Dracula. We know that the vampire state in Chernobyl is, a very big cog in the Marvel storytelling right now, especially with Jason Aaron. So, it's not, I doubt it, but this may resolve the Dracula issue within Wolverine's book. I thought it was pretty clever how they did it. But overall, again, I am not super interested in vampires and Wolverine. So if this is the end of the Wolverine arc, I'm happy. But I did like the way they dealt with them in the sense of like making basically dummy bodies filled with tainted blood. It was pretty cool. Yeah,
that was clever. I also like that they sort of found a way to wrap up what's her name? The vampire girl. Luis.
Yeah.
They took her to one of the other world places where the other vampires live that are supposed to be different. Then they find a way to like Benjamin Percy's like, well, these are like good vampires. They're not the weird ones like we have on Earth. So stay here and they'll teach you how to be a regular vampire that doesn't kill people. I liked that they just like wrapped her story up. Surely no Marvel character's dead forever and we'll see her again at some point, but I don't think it's just nice to not leave that loose end,
Mm-hmm. Also, I skipped over it, but she ends up getting a really cool like Krakoan suit that allows her to like be in the daylight because she's now a vampire. And she ends up giving Forge a little kiss for basically making her life a hell of a lot easier, which I thought was cool. But I am ready for this to be over, and I'm not sure if we've looked at it or not. But is the original artist back on the book next month, or are we still waiting for him to show up?
I haven't looked. We can go on, and I'll tell you.
Okay, so that is Wolverine number 12. Hopefully that is the end of the vampires, at least for a little while. All right, big one here. We've got Daredevil number 30 from Chip Zdarsky. We're continuing Elektra as Daredevil, and Daredevil is still continuing his sentence in jail.
Looks like we have a guest penciler because the next issue is Hellfire Gala, but then after that, Adam Kubert will be back on the.
Oh, thank God. I liked this issue, but I'm starting to get vibes of like Immortal Hulk a little bit, like in the sense of pacing, kind of like we get it, And I think even the characters in the book are kind of tired of it, with the way Daredevil is dealing with his whole "I'm gonna serve my time in prison."
Yeah. So, yes, I think it's really interesting because I think Chip Zdarsky is writing himself into this own problems. So obviously what he is wanting to do for this era of the book, I don't know how many arcs he plans for this to last, but Elektra as Daredevil is the current plan. The way he's doing that is by putting Daredevil in jail. If you want to keep Daredevil in jail, that's fine. I think that could totally work. You can just not bring him up that often, and I think that would be okay. I honestly don't think any people that are enjoying this run would start throwing a fit because the majority of the book wasn't Matt Murdock. And what the issue is Chip Zdarsky keeps writing solutions to getting him out of jail and then having Daredevil turn them down. Which, you're right, I think it's genuinely frustrating for the reader, and I think it's genuinely frustrating for the characters in the book.
Big
like,
time.
I don't think that, like, you know how you hear writers sometimes say, like, oh, I don't write the characters, they write themselves, and it just kind of comes down to me. And I think it's probably because it's so obvious that they're tired of this, that's
right.
The only way he can write them. This sounds like I'm shitting on this issue, and I'm really not. I just, I agree, and I think that maybe, I hope that Chip sort of realizes maybe we need to either get him out of jail because this is, you know, kind of where you've written yourself now, or if you want to keep Elektra in there for a long term, which I'm totally okay with Elektra being Daredevil and Matt chilling in a jail for like the rest of the year. Like, if we get 6 more issues of that, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But if he wants Matt back on the streets and in the uniform, he's already written 3 ways for that to happen, and then dismissed them in his own book. So
right. So like Murdoch basically is given an out because he gets his ass almost. I mean, not his ass. He gets stabbed to death almost in the last issue, right? And so we've got somebody. I can't remember the character, but basically he goes to the hospital and someone approaches and says, "Hey, we know the person that owns this jail. If you can, you know, pin some bad shit that's going on in the jail, we can get you out sooner." And it's looking like Matt's gonna do it, and then he's like, "I'll do it, but I'm still serving my time." And you're like,
right, huh?
Bro. And even like Foggy and like all of the lawyer friends are just like, motherfucker, like stop it. It's like, you can get out now, and there can be 2 Daredevils in Hell's Kitchen, not just one. And you know, obviously, you know, Chip has some kind of long game for it, we hope. I think he does. But it's incredibly frustrating in this issue.
Yeah. Yeah, so we really don't get a ton more Matt from this book. I really like the Elektra stuff that we get. So
well, also, let's point this out really quick before you jump into this. So Elektra's panels or pages are done by Chichetto.
Yeah.
Matt's pages are done by a completely different artist, and I will say that is a detriment to this book. It is.
Are they?
Yes, I don't remember who I think it was Rockin' Robbie that said that there's 2 different artists on this book.
Yeah.
And it, for me, I'm in the camp with Robbie. It's very disconnecting, and like when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, we're back here. Oh yeah, Chichetto. Oh, we're back here. Oh yeah, Chichetto. Like, I kind of don't like that. I wish Chichetto was just on the book.
I would say that in this particular issue, I disagree because I didn't even notice.
Okay, well, I did.
Well, while I love Chichetto's work, I think it made sense. Really, probably what happened is Chichetto just got behind, and they were like, "Hey, he needs some help," and then they gave this other guy the more boring, mundane, I'm in a hospital, I'm having a meeting panels, and then Chichetto got to do the badass, like, we're fighting, we're training, we're in a disco club, everything's fucking crazy, boom, 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 like awesome colors, like.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right.
Anyway,
sorry, I just had to say
I like the development of whatever Elektra's little sidekick's name is. I like that Alice. I like that she wasn't just a King in Black one-off.
Yeah.
She's still around, still getting trained, still being a part of the story. I also like that we're still getting little tiny glimpses of Kingpin and Typhoid Mary's really awkward, strange friendship. Like that they're trying to be better, but also they sort of reinforce each other's bad habits at the same time.
Right.
And Typhoid
Also,
Mary
does
is very put together in this issue.
Typhoid Mary, so she's changed her hair color, or is that a thing? Like, because I thought her hair was black, and in this issue it's like almost brownish red.
Oh no, it's always red.
I guess I'm just not paying attention. Who's Alice, the little girl? Yes, Jaden. It's the little girl who was in the King in Black issues for Daredevil. Her mother was nullified, and then she ended up dying. Null ended up killing her, and so Elektra
wasn't it Typhoid Mary? Nullified Typhoid Mary?
Yeah, it's like chucked a spear in her chest or something like that. And so now Elektra is kind of like pseudo training her, but adopting her, but not. And we kind of see the ramifications of that in this issue, because you're getting vibes of like, this is like the new Robin of Daredevil, and it doesn't really turn out that well in the book.
Yeah. Keep going if you want. You got it.
Well, I'm sorry. No. So they go, basically, Elektra goes to confront the new Kingpin of Hell's Kitchen, who is actually the son of Kingpin, right?
Yes.
And they, the son basically knows exactly who she is, and Elektra's kind of like, well, I own fucking Hell's Kitchen, so get the fuck out.
Well,
and he's like,
and she even goes so far as to announce herself in the Daredevil suit walking into the club.
Right. So there's a little bit of arrogance there that might bite her in the butt later.
Well, they were like, who do you like? You're not on the list. You can't get in here. And she's like, no, I own the fucking building. Like, I'm walking in now. I don't know. I really like that. I think it's interesting that she's not hiding behind the mask, that she's straight up. Again, being her own Daredevil. She's not being Matt.
Right. Stefan says, it took me a minute to recognize Typhoid Mary without the Chichetto awesome. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's what it is. That's what messed you up.
I couldn't figure it out. I was like, who is this?
That's why I was also saying she's very put together, because like it was, not only is it not Chichetto doing the panels, but it's like
it's just a different interpretation of the character.
Well, but she's made to look put together. That was part of her look for Chichetto, was like the wild, crazy, wispy hair was like, because she was out of control or something,
Right. Well, anyway, Daredevil or Elektra goes into this club, announces herself, tells him to get lost. Kingpin's son's like, hell no, I got a surprise for you. And we get this, like, I wouldn't say a zombie dude. I don't know what that guy is. I don't know how you would describe that guy. Just a goon, a bad guy. And so she starts fighting it, and it's clearly under some other kind of influence. When she's fighting it, she's actually getting her ass kicked, and she's trying to figure out a way to do it the Daredevil way. And by the end of the fight, it's looking like she might actually lose her life. So she's like, you know what, maybe I have to kill it. And before she can actually kind of do the death blow, bang, 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 and Alice shot the bad guy, the goon. And at that point, Elektra's like, fuck, did not want to get blood on this girl's hands. Like, I can do it. I'm a murderer, but not a 10-year-old little girl. Like, this is not a place for her. And the girl was kind of like, well, I thought you were going to get killed, that kind of thing. And as they're leaving, the guy is like disintegrates, and she's like, the hand.
The hand. So it looks like old Kingpin's son is having some type of dealings with the hand, because of course, always got to have hand.
Right.
Going around.
And so, we're moving or we're inching ever so closer to, Elektra's prophesized essentially that she needs Murdoch, she needs Matt in order to defeat the Hand, but it also has been prophesized that someone of the two are going to die, probably Elektra. So we'll see what happens. it was a good issue, but for me, just the back and forth of the art kind of took me out of the book a little bit. And then the whole like Daredevil just like not taking the bone that people are throwing him because I gotta do this, even though it's doing, you know, him being in prison is worse than actually not, you know what I mean? Like he's had someone's committed suicide. There's, you know, he's getting his ass kicked and he almost died. Like there's the ramifications of him being in jail have actually been worse than if he'd not gone in at all.
Right.
Which is kind
Exactly.
of funny. So
Yeah. And then the issue wraps up with us seeing that Bullseye has escaped this little experiment that Kingpin has been doing on him. He basically kills every scientist in the lab and calls the Kingpin and is like, "Yep, didn't work. I'm out of here. Bye." So obviously, I think we're gonna get some more Bullseye in this new crazy, souped-up form here.
So was he? So I'm assuming he was experimented on, and now he's like super strong.
That's the assumption. There's no like for sure what's going on here.
I think the next issue is the one where I think it's Bullseye. It looks like it's Bullseye with both Daredevil and Elektra's mask in his hands, with angel wings.
With angel wings, yeah, it's very strange.
I'm excited. I am digging the hell out of Zdarsky's run outside of this whole like writing yourself into a corner. I think it's kind of weird, but
yeah, this wasn't like as strong as his normal issues, but his not strong books are still stronger than most people's really good books. So
for sure. All right, after that, we got Jason Aaron's The Mighty Valkyries, #2. I actually enjoyed this issue more than the first issue. Because we actually get some backstory to this, being that is hunting Loki. And we actually get some sympathy towards him. And I think you're really in the journey of Jane, like you're kind of seeing it through her eyes, kind of.
Right.
And how conflicting it is because it's just so hard, right? Because it's fucking Loki, right? Like you do not trust Loki no matter what, right? And it seems like the wool had been pulled over her eyes, and now we're getting the other side of the coin in this book.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the first part. So the book is split up into two different stories again, and essentially the way they're doing it is half of the first story, and then the second story, and then the second half of the first story.
Yeah.
Which I think we said this when the first issue came out. The art on the first story by Mattia de Iluis is fucking insane. It's so good. Like it's probably like so intricate that there's probably no way that person could maintain this on a regular ongoing. My God, I would love to see this as a regular ongoing book.
I mean, look, here,
all of this art.
Let's show a panel really quick. So this one panel where, and I don't remember the name of the character, but the character that's the Queen of Hell.
Oh, Carnilla.
Yeah, we're given like a flashback where she kind of releases this being. And so at one point she releases him, and in doing so, Hell flourishes with life. And he's like basking in this water, like getting, taking a bath, essentially, kind of getting cleaned up to leave. I mean, that looks like a painting. Like that looks like a painting from the Renaissance. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The artwork is insane in this book. It's extremely detailed, very realistic. And funny you say that, Patrick. Loki's the cried wolf, right? But we're dealing with the wolf in this issue. Yeah, the artwork is fantastic in this book, or at least in the first story. The second story is good too, but it's not nearly as good as the first story.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So, the first part of this first story is really just this backstory that we get of Carnilla. So, what's the character's name? Moore? Is that what it is?
I think so. Something like that.
Of Carnilla releasing Moore, and just a little bit of backstory, which I find it to be really, interesting because this whole Carnilla and Hela like marriage thing that's going on is something that's like left over from War of the Realms, which is really interesting.
A long time ago.
Yeah, and Jason Aaron's still kind of playing with it, but really that's the majority of the setup that we get with this first story. Then it jumps to the second half where our other main character, whose name I'm not going to remember, it is Runa. Yes,
that's the other Valkyrie, right?
Yeah, the other Valkyrie, Runa, basically has freed this oracle from his, enslavement on this planet, the planet of Perdita. And it's basically like a on the run little issue. They're on the run, and he's basically using his oracle abilities to tell her what to do and what direction to go in and stuff so that they're able to escape. But literally, it's just five pages.
That interaction is hilarious though, because he starts off being extremely cryptic in what she should do next, and she's like, enough with the bullshit, enough with the deposition, just tell me where to go. He's like, it doesn't really work that way, but sure.
Like, yeah, take a left. Yes. However, the second half of the first story, the main story, the Moore story, I think is the extremely strong part of this book. And it really just has to do with the discourse between Jane Foster and Moore.
Well, and them trying to find common ground too, like him convincing her that it's not just black and white, like there's a little bit of gray here.
Right. Well, because Jane still really just doesn't understand like what's going on, and he basically explains like we're saying he. I think that the gender here is very non-pronounced on purpose,
right? Because
it's like a transformative being, kind of like Loki appears as a woman for a while as well,
right?
Anyway, so just for reference's sake, we'll say he until it confirms otherwise. But
right,
he basically explains like, hey, like I was locked up when I was literally just a pup, how. Actually, he starts off. That's what it was. I really liked it. He starts off with like this little analogy, and it's like, how big does a prison have to be to make it not a prison anymore? She's like, what do you mean? He's like, so if I lock you up in your room and tell you can't leave no matter what, will you feel like you're in prison? Yeah. Well, what if I locked you on the island of Manhattan? They told you could never leave. Would that be a prison to you?
Right.
Okay. Well, now what if I locked you in all of the United States? Then would you really feel like you're in prison? Most people that live in the U.S. never leave the U.S. Like, they would never even know. You would never even know you're a prison. He's like, so you have this amount of room that you're in and that you're allowed to grow. And like, even if it is a prison or not a prison, you've had room. Like, I was literally in a prison. I didn't have room to grow. Like, Loki locked me up right away just because of the off chance that I might maybe do something in the future. Not for anything that I've actually done.
Right.
But for what I might maybe do. And I don't know, like there was just a lot of empathy for this character is built in this issue.
Definitely on purpose too.
Yeah. Then we get, I think, the most random enemy cameo that I've ever seen.
Oh, you talking about Kraven or whatever his name is?
And this is Kraven's son?
I don't know.
Okay, so it makes me, I don't know anything about Kraven. So maybe it's just maybe his dad is Kraven and it's always known, but like I don't know I don't think this is the Kraven of the 80s. Like it almost makes it sound like he says the last son of Kraven. Doesn't matter. Kraven the Hunter shows up, or whatever the hell his name is, and they fight. And it's weird, and I don't really get why he is a character that is involved.
Well, I think he's involved because I think Loki is using all of his tools at his disposal. I'm making an assumption here. And I think he set up Jane to get in good with the being and distract it so that Kraven can come in and just kill it. Yeah. That's my guess. And I bet we'll see that in the next issue. But yeah, it was kind of random. Like, oh, look, here's this Spider-Man villain, and he's going to kill our newly found friend.
Yeah.
That was a little weird.
Yeah, it was a little strange, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a cool fight scene. Jane's horse comes trundling in, which I always find him to be very funny.
But annoying too.
No, only funny.
Annoying.
Again, you could be wrong about some
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Jane says, "What's the point of prison if it doesn't feel like prison?" That is a true chin scratcher right there, because it kind of is what it is.
Gentry says, "Yeah."
Craven dies and is succeeded by his identical clone son. Beautiful, Gentry. Thank you.
So
That
comics.
That is
Comics.
No, I mean that's totally fine, and it's something that. Okay, see now I know Gentry might be fibbing to us now. Hunted is an actually good Nick Spencer ASM story. I'm just kidding. I personally haven't been reading any of the Nick Spencer stuff, so I can't top. But
up and
thank
down.
you for letting us know. I really appreciate that because
100%.
it's so hard to know it all. So here we go. That's Craven's son, and that makes a little bit more sense now why he's appearing just to use this new character.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how Valkyrie Loki uses him, because I'm almost certain he's behind the whole thing. Obviously, that's the whole point.
Yeah, the next issue is literally Loki dangling his hands like a puppet master.
Chinchu's like, I'm 100% serious. We appreciate it. I didn't mean to laugh that hard. It's just, I'm just so over Nick Spencer's run.
I think most of Nick Spencer's run had to have been pretty good, or else he wouldn't have gotten this far into it, right? Like especially the beginning stuff. Like if his issues 1 through 20 were bad, there's no way he gets to issues 70.
No,
so,
not at all.
I'll actually probably have to check it out.
Yeah, we will get on the Marvel Unlimited and check it out for sure. After that, we've got Shang-Chi #1. This was a game time decision for me, picking it up. I know you did. Did you end up reading this or no?
I didn't
Okay.
get to this one.
So, essentially, this is a new #1, only in that it's a new writer, I believe, but it continues the story from the previous miniseries. In the previous miniseries, Shang-Chi finds out that he has a sister. He ends up taking over his dad's crime syndicate. And so in this series, or at least at the beginning of the series, we're dealing with Shang-Chi trying to figure out how to mold the syndicate into being a good thing and not a bad thing. But there's politics in play. Like, you've got to control all of the arms, the several arms of the entity, so he's got to do it slowly. But in a world of heroes, it needs to be instantaneous. And so now what we get in this issue is Shang-Chi navigating that world and also kind of hiding the fact that he's in charge, right? He doesn't really want to let everybody know that he's in charge because they're going to immediately assume that he's a bad guy. And what we find out in this issue is there are parts of the syndicate that haven't found out that there's been a change of the guard. And so they're still running the operation as is. And so we've got this drug dealer who is also a weapons dealer, and Spider-Man is actually tracking down the weapons dealer part of it, and Shang-Chi is tracking down the drugs dealing part of it, and they end up finding out that it's the same entity. And what this drug dealer, weapon dealer thing is it's like this drug/root that heightens your senses, gives you super strength, and also like makes your hands turn into like monster talon claw things. Hard to explain that part. And so Shang-Chi and Spider-Man end up fighting this guy, and when the fight is over, Spider-Man's like, hey, let's go to jail now. And he's picking the dude up, and the dude puts one of the roots onto Spider-Man's face, and he ends up turning into like a 8-foot tall version of Spider-Man, but he's got like 6 arms, 4 of them being monster talon arms, and he's fighting Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi's like, shit, this is not how I wanted this to go, because, this root is technically part of his crime syndicate. And so while he's fighting Spider-Man, he's trying to figure out the best way to not hurt him and get him back to normal, whereas Shang-Chi's sister, who's there too, is part of the syndicate, her answer to everything is just kill it, slit its throat. And the entire time she is just saying, like, don't do that. We cannot do that. That is not how we solve issues now. I'm the head of the family. We do not kill anybody for no reason. And so at one point they're able to get the root off of Spider-Man. He shrinks back down. Spidey's like, what the hell happened? And Spider-Man starts putting the dots together. He's like, wait a minute. This is part of this crime syndicate. And then Shang-Chi calls in people from the syndicate to clean up the mess and get rid of the drugs. Like, I want these drugs off the streets. And immediately Spidey's like, wait, are you one of them? And Shang-Chi's like, figure it out. And the issue ends with him leaving. So you're like, even as a reader, you're like, holy shit, is Shang-Chi turning bad, or is he just trying to play the middle so he doesn't upset either, doesn't unbalance anything until he can figure it out on his own, The smart answer is just tell the Avengers what's going on and they can figure it out, but we wouldn't have a comic, right? So the artwork in this book is fantastic. I think it's Ryan, Ruan. It was really good. I was not expecting the art to be that good. I know you're burnt out on the cover artist, but the
yes, Lionel Francis Hugh covers.
The artwork in this
one.
The artwork was really good in this book. I was a lot more surprised with this book than I thought it was going to be. That being said, it's incredibly annoying that this is a #1 when it's literally a continuation off of the miniseries. They literally could have just kept on with the numbers and stuck with it. That being said, I'm going to continue to read at least the first arc. The artwork sold me. The artwork was really good. And the Spidey interaction with Shang-Chi was really good. I thought it was true. It was a lot more true to the character of Spider-Man than some other titles that are currently ongoing right now. But
you had to do it. You had to go there again.
I didn't say it specifically.
We all know what you're talking about.
You do, but I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to, but we know. Anyway, I really enjoy it. If you're into Shang-Chi, or you want to get into Shang-Chi, or if you want to just read some comics of Shang-Chi, but you don't want to like dive really back deep into like legacy numbers, this might be a book for you. I enjoyed it more than I thought it was going to. And I told everybody during the comic book haul video, the reason why I picked this book up was literally because of the movie trailer. And I'm not disappointed in it. It's really fun. So, yeah. Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi 1.
Nice. Shang-Chi #1.
All right. Next up, I believe, is our honorable mentions. So we have some Marvel books in here. We've got some independent books in here. And we also have some DC books in here. So this is a new segment. We've got our honorable mentions, so we're just going to kind of not fly through, but just be real quick on some of these books. Also, because we just have a beefy week, and so we kind of need to trim it down a little bit. Trim the fat.
Yeah, we would have been at 24 books if we did all of these together, right. So that's too much.
So let's kick it off with Fantastic Four.
Okay. Fantastic Four. Life Story, #1. If you didn't see our comic haul video, I picked this issue up solely because of the badass Brett Booth cover. I was not super interested in the story. If you don't know what Life Story is, they've done one with Spider-Man before, but basically it's a retelling of the story of whatever character, Fantastic Four in this case, and it moves through the decades with them and ages them correctly through the decades. So we start out in the 60s here. We actually get some John Kennedy right up at the top. And it's basically just a revised origin story, but it's basically them going to space, getting their cosmic powers. While they're there, Reed gets a glimpse of some being, and it is scaring him, and it looks like it's eating stars. It's like, wow. And it's Galactus, of course. And he's just so bothered by it that he can't let it go and wants to go back to space to make sure that what he saw is correct. So him and the Thing go back to space. They see Galactus again, and that's it. Now they're afraid because Galactus is coming.
That's the book?
That's the book.
Oh, cool.
I will not be picking up any more issues. I picked this up as a cover buy, but I was like, still gonna read the story. That's get my money's worth, and
You're good.
I'm good. No problems here. I'm good.
Right on.
It's not awful. I just, and I'm sure there are going to be some people that really enjoy it, but I don't need to rehash the Fantastic Four origin again. So maybe subsequent issues will be better. I will personally, unless we get another badass cover that I just want to buy, I will probably wait for it to finish, let it get collected, and if start hearing some people that I trust that are saying, "Hey, this is badass," then maybe look at it then. But
Right.
for now, I'm good.
Okay. After that, we've got the Immortal Hulk Time of Monsters. This is actually a really, really good issue. Artwork in it was fantastic. It's a single shot, just kind of diving deeper into the Green Door and the one down below. I will say this. Don't ever eat a hulked out individual. That's all I have to say, because...
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just say profanity on the stream? What?
No. Okay, I'll go real quick. A meteor hits the Earth that's filled with gamma radiation.
I just need you to repeat what you said first.
Don't eat. Like, if you hunt a Hulk individual, a gamma mutated individual, and you hunt them and then cook them for dinner and eat them, don't do it.
I thought you added a word after eat, and I was like,
No.
Did you just say that on the freaking stream?
No,
you
I
can't
did
say
not.
that.
Listen, so you basically get a Abraham and his son style story in this book. A green meteorite infused with gamma radiation falls to the Earth. The father thinks if he sacrifices his son to it, that the next hunt and conquering of the next door neighbor will go great. So he sacrifices his son. His son ends up getting sucked into the meteorite. His flesh gets torn apart and he dies. And then he comes back through the Green Door as the very first Hulk. The art is grotesque, and I loved it. Yes, Jaden, it's very gross. And so he comes back as the Hulk, but he doesn't know. He's like a demon Hulk. And the tribe ends up hunting him, killing him, cooking him, eating him. And then when the son goes back through the Green Door, he comes back, but as he comes back, all of his flesh and bones are literally ripping through people so that he can transform back to himself. So people are throwing up, their stomachs are getting ripped out of their bodies, they're being liquefied because he's coming back because he's an immortal Hulk. That's this issue in a nutshell.
That sounds awesome.
It's awesome. It's really gross, but if you're not into that, then I wouldn't read it. But it was really cool. But that's that issue in a nutshell. So don't do it.
Jaden.
Don't eat Hulk when he dies. Don't do it.
Oh, Jaden, if the art was grotesque for you, buddy, the end of this segment's going to be for you for sure.
Let's do Star Wars.
Next book up is Star Wars. Yes, this is Bounty Hunters issue 12, which is a War of the Bounty Hunters prelude issue. I actually think they did a great job here. So, you called me out last week for not being caught up on my Star Wars when I said I would. So I read 29 issues of Star Wars and related Star Wars comics this week to get caught up.
Awesome.
So I actually read this issue after having read issues 5 through 12. So I was very familiar with the story of what was going on with our characters here, and I think this is a really good issue that that bridges the gap between finishing our last arc and getting us into War of the Bounty Hunters.
Okay.
Basically, Valance has finished up a mission where he helps save a lost rebel ship, and as a repayment for something from the first arc or second arc. And he is now traveling into space because the guy that he is with has told him that there's the massive hunt for Han Solo. And in the past 3 or 4 issues of Bounty Hunters, we've been getting flashbacks of Valance's time as a young Imperial cadet with Han Solo. And so in this one, we get another flashback of them after they have become their established or semi-established characters. Han Solo is now the rogue guy that hangs out with Chewie and is silly and witty, and Valance is a bounty hunter, and they're doing their things, and so Valance is super desperate for some money, and he picks up a bounty, and not knowing who it is or what it is, just it's this guy over here by this ship. And so he goes and gets the guy in his sniper sights, and he sees, oh shit, that's Han. Like, Han also has a lot to do with saving his life when he gets injured. So, but the way that they leave off their relationship in as cadets is kind of strange, it's kind of weird. So he's like, hey, I owe this guy my life, like I can't kill him. And so he actually saves him from the other bounty hunter just as he's about to take the shot. He like pushes his gun out of the way, and but of course Han looks up and just sees a bullet that, or a laser bullet that just barely missed him, with Valance holding a sniper rifle in his hand. He's like, yo, what the fuck? And him and Wookiee and him and Chewie basically hightail it out of there while Valance is literally running. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, stop. And then they fly away. Yeah, so this is basically bridging how Valance himself is going to be involved in the War of the Bounty Hunters. I thought this was a great issue. This is perfect to call it a prelude issue. It was a really good job of getting us in between arcs, and I thought it was great. So if you are reading War of the Bounty Hunters, but you're like, I don't want the tie-ins, I would maybe pick this one up because I think it has a lot of value.
Got it. Next up, DC's Flash 770. We talked about it in the comic book haul video. Went to World War II. Hitler's the bad guy. Overdone. Artwork, though, in this book is fantastic. But the story itself is outplayed, outdone, tired, meh.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure die-hard Flash fans probably loved this book. But for me as a casual new DC reader, I was just completely disinterested in the story.
He's in the body of the very first Flash, whose name I absolutely don't know, but so there might be old school hardcore DC readers that just will find the novelty of that interesting, which we're not dismissing at all. It just personally didn't hit it for us. But yeah, Hitler in World War II as a setting in general is just it's kind of like vampires. It's not for me. It is not inherently bad. I just feel like it is. I think tired is a great example or a great word for it. It's just tired. I'm over it. However, the last page where he zooms, and also I'm also getting a little bit tired of this zooming into different bodies. Like, let's move on. Like, you can only do the same gag so many times. But he is Jay Garrick. Thank you, Patrick. That is exactly who I was thinking.
We're learning things.
I knew I would know it if I heard it. I just couldn't think of it. He is the last panel is him jumping into. Oh shit! Now I'm not gonna remember.
Patrick says while you're looking, my favorite. Haha. I really like seeing him, but yeah, Hitler is kind of like vampires. You're right. Yeah, it's just overdone. Like. I don't know. We get it. Captain America punched Hitler in the face. Oh yeah. Let's do a different story.
Eobard Thrawn, is that his name? It's not in the book. Anti-Flash or something like that.
Yeah, Anti-Flash.
Some bad guy. I think his name's Eobard Thrawn or something.
The guy with the yellow suit, Red Bolt.
Listen, I'm just trying to impress Patrick that I know some old school character names, okay? I've been reading DC for like one whole month of my entire life.
Very true.
I'm trying.
All right, after that, we've got DC's Wonder Girl #1 from the Future State, or spawning out of Infinite Frontier. Again, the artwork was really good in this book, but us not being seasoned DC readers, we were informed by Jacob over at Collected at our LCS that there's just a lot in this book that I guess we should know, but we don't, because again, we've only been reading DC for a month. And so I felt extremely disconnected with this book. I like the character. I think the character's cool. I want to know more about her, but I don't know what the hell's going on in this book.
Yeah, so this book, our review, I think the reason why we put this to an honorable mention is because I don't think we can justify or give this
Can't give a good review. Yeah,
review on this. I really don't. I don't know what's. Pardon me. I don't know what's going on here. Jacob actually, what he said was that he told us that as new readers, we're too hung up on the things that we don't know, and sometimes you're not supposed to know. And I said, well, so is that what this book is? Just a bunch of stuff I wasn't know? And he's like, yeah, you shouldn't know any of this except for this, this, and this. I'm like,
but we don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. So I did find it very strange, like very like wishy-washy, like I wasn't quite sure where we were going. And then she gets sort of like, lassoed into the water by a mermaid, but like an evil mermaid. And I don't know who all these characters are that like at the beginning we're introduced to as, all in their nice, eloquent font. Like, and it gets double confusing when you get things like Mount Olympus, which like, okay, so there's DC's version of Mount Olympus, there's Marvel's version of the Greek gods, and there's the actual Greek god, and it's like I get really confused really easily when it comes. It's actually one of the reasons why I've always avoided Wonder Woman, is just because of her semi-quasi like Greek god sort of thing.
Greek god stuff, yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna continue to pick this up. I really, really enjoy the art. I also like that it is a creator written and drawn series. So I will continue to pick this up so that I can hopefully figure out what the hell is going on.
No, I'm definitely picking it up more because I'm intrigued with the new character. I just, and also we don't have a Wonder Woman book in our pool. And because currently she's in actual Wonder Woman's in like Valhalla, and I'm just like, I'll stick with my Thor, I'm good. But that being said, like, yeah, I want to know more, but I don't know what the hell's going on. Jaden says I liked the mermaid, but yeah, I was like, what? Yeah,
the mermaid looked cool. Like the art, the visuals in this are great. Also, DC has been printing almost all of their books on this like matte. Is that the right word? Like matte paper? Like it's not glossy, and I think it looks so much better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so I think it makes this art pop a lot to me.
Yeah, I'll get number 2, but again, I'll reiterate what Nate said. These are in our, at least some of these books are in our honorable mentions, not just because we're trying to cut down the amount of books we're covering and not going on them a lot, but also it's just we don't want to give a full review and it'd be completely shitty because we don't know what's going on. So we're just kind of putting them here because of our limitations, not necessarily because of the book's limitations. If there is any. No, you're good.
What? Yeah. Just text me. Sorry.
No,
finally, for our final, are we ready for our final one?
Yeah, go for it.
Jaden, this one, buddy, if you like the gore, then this one is it. This is Red Room by Ed Piskor. This was a also last minute pick up, I should say. I wasn't able to get to the LCS on Wednesday like I wanted to, so I went in on Thursday, but all Wednesday night watching, catching up on my normal YouTube videos and reviews and just watching what other people are chatting about, this book kept coming up time and time again. And I was like, you know what? If it's still at the shop, which I bet it's not because it's a random publisher, not very popular, it probably won't be at the shop. I get to the shop, there's one more left. And I was like, all right, I'll pick it up. And my God, I don't know what to say. So this book is basically a bunch of short stories, but they kind of come together to paint this larger story of a guy that like tortures people and murders them on the dark web. That's as far as I'll really get into it.
Okay.
There's also an undergoing story subplot of like a guy that loses his wife and daughter, are in a car wreck, and his wife dies, and his daughter is, extremely hurt. They were like on their way to like pick up his prescription medicine for him, and so like he feels like it's his fault, and he eventually gets captured by the torture guy. And I mean, if you want to talk about growth, I almost didn't realize you could publish this. Like,
Ooh.
Like, it's not even necessarily that it's like extremely sexual. It's that it's just the
Gross.
gore is just intense. So at multiple points we see different ways that this guy takes people out on camera, like live, like on the dark web. So like at one point you see a guy get shot through the neck, and you see the brain and top of his head exploding. You see a guy get his head chopped off with a chainsaw. You see a guy get hit in the eyeball first with a machete. There was one where you see a guy getting his tongue pulled out with like vice grips.
Hold on. Stefan says, "LOL." My boss glanced at it and said, "Ed should be locked up for creating this."
I mean, it honestly, like, it does get to the point where I wonder, like, yeah, we're going so far just to do it. So I think I'll be okay with just this first issue.
Oh, you're not gonna get issue 2?
No, I will not.
I remember you telling me about this. Like, I'm gonna go pick this up. Are you? I'm like, no. There's even a Peach Momoko cover for it, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, the back cover is, particularly intriguing. This person getting their ear peeled off and held. I genuinely think that this book was kept in black and white because you just couldn't handle it in color. I'm serious. Like, I think if this was in color and you could see the vomit in actual color and the blood spray in actual color, I genuinely think multiple people would have gotten physically ill reading this book.
I'm good. I'll stay clear to that.
Jaden says, I think this the goriest comment I've ever read was Crossed, and this sounds pretty close. I have not read Crossed, but now I'm interested.
It sounds like Patrick's gonna pick it up.
It was hard. It sounds. Yeah, it's, if you can find it, go for it. If this is, and again, I am always looking for things that push the boundaries. I like things that are unique and individual and are telling stories that aren't being told. And that is all of this. There is not another comic book on the shelf like this. I find it very interesting that this is coming from a guy that has done work for like Marvel, that has written like X-Men books before. And so, revolting. Oh God. Oh God. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't.
Hey, at least you gave the warning, Jaden. At least you gave the warning.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that's
it.
Yeah, those are our honorable mentions. So now we're gonna get into our 2 DC books, since 2 of them are in here, and that is Justice League number 61 from Bendis. This issue, I enjoy. Again, I'm still enjoying Justice League, but this one's the first one that I'm like, the pacing felt a little weird, just a little weird. Other than that, I'm really digging the story. I'm liking the new villain. Essentially, the last issue, our group went to Naomi's world or reality, her universe, and when they got there, they all got separated. Mm-hmm. And now that we kind of like, we get to see where everybody landed, and everybody that has superpowers, outside of Naomi, I think. I could be wrong on that. But it seems like everybody from Earth 1, their powers, if they have them, are amplified to the nth degree. So Canary can literally shatter mountains with her voice. Superman can't control his heat vision, so he has his eyes closed, because if he opens them, he'll kill anybody.
He's Cyclops.
Right. Who else had crazy power? Oh, the one that tripped me out was Aquaman. Like, I guess he needs water, and if he doesn't have it, he dies. So, like, when they cut to like they're cutting to everybody and their powers are amplified. They go to Aquaman and he's it looks like he's bleeding water out of his eyes. Like it's water, but it looks like blood, like in the sense of like how it's draining out of his eyes. And he's like, water, and he falls down and kind of faints. Who else do we have? Because Batman doesn't have any powers, so he's not like super smart.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else is affected, because you've got Green Arrow.
Hot Girl is affected. Like she feels even stronger than she usually is.
Right.
And I mean, Naomi, what's wrong with Naomi? Like, this is her home planet. So when she shows up, like, she has a freak out moment and her hands start disappearing. So I don't know if that's a product of her being there or if she's just freaking out so much because she's back home. We'll have to wait and see. Green Arrow doesn't have any, he's a normal mortal. So he's just, fending for his life. I know Black Adam does, and he does show up in this issue, but he's like super saiyaned out, and he's just like super
all
strong.
lightninged out.
Yeah. But what we get in this book is that the new baddies essentially have confirmed that Earth is the next place they need to invade and conquer because the world that they're on currently has been completely decimated, and so they need to leech on another planet. That's this book in a nutshell. But that being said, like the character development in this book with each character, I thought was really good. Like the writing for our Justice League characters was outstanding. I felt like the writing and character development for the new baddies, for me, not so much. They didn't feel, their voices to me didn't match the artwork. What do you think?
I mean, really, we didn't get too much of it. Like, besides the random minions, we just have the guy and the girl, right? Like the guy that we've seen in the previous couple issues.
I think it's the big demon-looking guy that it throws me off. Like, he sounds like a teenager. Yes,
and so it's funny you say that because that is what I have heard. I think this genuinely might be one of the first Brian Michael Bendis comics I've ever read, which I don't understand how that's possible, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Right.
That's kind of his thing, is that he doesn't get voice very well. Like he doesn't make characters sound how they should or what you would think.
Interesting.
I actually found it kind of humorous. I don't know, that this like giant demon-headed, powerful being was sort of like a teenager, but I could understand how that would be off-putting as well.
Yeah, it was just a little weird. Like it felt like Batman, Canary, Hot Girl, Superman, our Justice League characters felt like they had their voice. Like they sounded like their characters. And it's really odd to say that a new character doesn't sound like the character how it should be. Like, how do we know it's a new character? But it just didn't. I guess it just didn't fit.
Just didn't match up with your expectation.
Yeah, 100%. Like when he showed up on Earth. When I read that new character, I was like, "Oh yeah, this feels right." And then we get back to this planet, and it's like, "Wait, did he like did he go back a couple years? Like, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'm still liking the Justice League run. I'm loving it. I'm glad we're picking it up. I cannot wait for the next issue. But that was my only criticism of the book, was that it just didn't feel like the character we set up 2 issues ago. It just felt a little off.
Did you read the backup story?
I haven't read it because I haven't read the other ones. I need to go back and read.
So that's exactly where I'm at. It's a 3-year-old. Patrick says it's like the biggest guy in the bar has the voice of a 3-year-old. Throwing everyone off.
Yeah, it's like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's voice. Like he's a big badass, knock you out in one punch, but he talks like this.
So if anyone has been reading the backup stories in here, the Justice League Dark, let us know what you think, because I haven't read them either. I honestly was like, by the time I got to the books, and by the time I got to this one, for some reason it was one of the last ones in the week, and I was like, I'm a little too tired, and also I'm very unfamiliar with the characters presented in there. But I've been hearing really good things. People are saying like it's the better story of the two.
Yeah, Robbie has been, every time he does this review or early review, on his Sunday shows, he is always constantly saying that Ram V is his story is just. He says it's interesting to see what Bendis does with, I think it's 20 pages, and Ram does with 10. Seeing the different writing styles. And he's always been, he's not trying to compare apples and oranges, but he's been always very just very enthusiastic and positive about Ram's 10 pages in Justice League Dark. So yeah, you're right. We need to read it, but if anyone has read it, and let us know, are we fucking up here? Are we just do we need to stop the show right now and just go read those 3 issues so that we can get caught up?
Also, because I feel like it's important to cite your sources, here's the link to Pop Culture Philosophers. This is who we were talking about when we say Robbie. He is a actual comic book store manager and has an absolutely amazing channel as well. So
we love that guy. We watch his show all the time. Again, it's another one of those shows that we watch prior to our show so that we feel like we have done all of our research. If you couldn't tell, me and Nathan both were history majors in college, so it's very important to us that we cite our sources.
It has been drilled into my brain.
Yep, pretty much. All right, our last DC book for the week is Nightwing number 80.
Oh, this just barely missed my pick of the week.
Same. Taylor, you're killing it, bro. This cover killer, this comic book killer, quite literally. He is just doing a fantastic job of telling this new story, and also just melding different mediums and different ways of telling a story, visually and writing wise. The intrigue of this new character that they say it's his first appearance, but it's actually his second cameo appearance in Heartless. We've been building up this villain for 2 issues now. It's been great. We're continuously shitting on Nightwing in this book, in the sense that he brings in his brother, who is another Robin, and he actively says,
it's not his actual.
I thought it was his brother. Okay, well,
Batman, he says he calls him brother, but
Bat family brother.
Yes, right.
And basically says
Tim Drake.
Everybody likes Tim better than me as Robin. So Nightwing knows that he was a shitty Robin, or at least he thinks. At least the perception of him is a shitty Robin. I don't know that personally, but I just like how the Bat family continuously gives him a hard time, whether it's a group text message about how he fucked up again, or stuff like that. It's just a good book. Basically we're trying to solve the mystery of all these kids who are orphaned, who basically their parents have lost their hearts, quite literally, their heart has been ripped out of their chest. And we also, Nightwing gets accused of murder in this book, and he has to come up with an alibi, and his alibi is Oracle, because he was with Oracle all night in the previous issue.
Yes.
But while they're being hold on, Professor Comic says, in Bruce's eyes, everyone is a shitty Robin. Damn.
Yes, that is true.
The little details are never lost on Nightwing and Oracle. So when they're being interrogated by the cops to find out if Nightwing was actually the murderer, they're continuously grabbing clues from these detectives to find out actually what's going on. And so when Nightwing calls in, the other Robin, we get a little play of family drama again, where they're having a dialogue about Oracle, and then they realize that Oracle's actually on the line, on the communication line. And the artist, and I think Taylor, did a great job of melding different art styles. And so when she cuts in to say, hey, I'm still on the line, I hear everything you're talking about, she's in this chibi anime form, which I thought was hilarious. And then when we get a fight scene, we see Nightwing putting together his sticks to make a fighting pole or a fighting staff. And it literally is an infographic of how to do it. Twist one direction, twist the other, connect, bam, you've got it. It's just a fun book. I was not expecting to like Nightwing.
Yeah, I mean, for a character that I just didn't know anything about before I picked this book up, and really, at the time I didn't even know what was going on recently with him. So I don't know. It's for someone to be able to pick up issue 78 of a current run of Nightwing, not knowing who Nightwing is or what recently or his legacy history is, and to still have an intriguing story that's fun. I think that takes a lot of talent, and the fact that even though now I feel like I'm much more educated because I am, like Jim said, we're history majors and we want to know this stuff. I've been doing my history like crazy. I think I have a better understanding of Dick Grayson as a character, and I feel like this matches up a lot with what I'm seeing or what I've heard about him. I think that the interaction with him and like the chemistry that you see with him and Tim are really awesome. Even
Oracle, like when they're getting interrogated, or Barbara, right? When they're in the apartment and the detectives are like, "Are y'all a thing?" And like, there's just these like little social cues, and you're like,
Honestly, though, what takes this book, especially this issue, what kind of elevated it for me personally was the art. Because the beginning of the book, you kind of look at it and it's not anything to write home about. It's not like blow you away. But then you get this really cool panel. It's like a bird's eye view or looking straight down cutout of his apartment. And from then on, we don't get I don't feel like a single conventional, maybe one or two conventional pages. Everything else is sort of cut up. The fluidity is, we see characters moving through panels. We see the little chibi thing, like you said. We get the twisting. There's even like a really old school looking fight sequence where Tim and Dick sort of switch places. And it just looks like it was like from the 1940s, art, very like old school, which is juxtaposed next to like a big modern style. This is the page here. So you've got on the left, you've got the big giant modern looking splash page. And then on the right side, you've got this like how to kick bad guys in the face, like very, like blocky sort of feeling. And I love it. I really enjoying this run. It's just fun. Like it's fun that I don't have to know all of this extra stuff to know what's going on and still enjoy the story that's being told.
Also, what's nice about that page is, like, when you get pages like that in some comics, you kind of just, like, look at it and glance over it. But what I find myself doing in this book, like you said, like the overview of the apartment or the infographics or even that panel, is, like, you really dissect it and look at it. I mean, you could get caught looking at it for 5 minutes just to like get all of the detail of what's going on so you don't miss anything. And I think that's the beauty of this comic, is it's written so well and illustrated so well that you don't want to miss a thing, and you really want to just eat all of it up. I think it's great.
Yep.
Let's see. Patrick says, I'm really glad I subbed to Nightwing at least the minute Tom came on. I agree. Also really dig the throwback to the running the train in the 90s. I'm pretty sure Nightwing trained Tim Drake Robin while running atop a train blindfolded Wicked. I like that a lot too. And then Jaden says it reminded me of the Daredevil cane. It's masterfully done. Like you can tell that the artist and Taylor are both on the same page. Like they are coordinating perfectly. They're in a fluid dance right now with this book, and sometimes you don't get that with a lot of books. So kudos to them for pulling it off on a book like that.
Yep. Stephen says pretty much exactly what we're saying here too. Never read Nightwing before 78. It's now at the top of my reading list whenever it comes out. Me too. Like seriously, we grabbed this, and I think the only thing I put in front of it was Way of X, because I don't read in the order that we present. I just read in what's interesting. And so, this is always in the top 5.
Also, I believe issue 79 second print comes out this week, so keep an eye out for that. If you're into that. It's the cover of Dick like going through his different costumes from Robin into Nightwing, climbing up the building.
Oh, right.
So it's gonna be dope. So just be on the lookout for that if you're looking for that. All right, we are jumping into our independence. We're starting off with Home, issue number 2. We're continuing the story of our two individuals who are fleeing Guatemala from persecution. And our mother has been separated from her son. The son has escaped. And, spoilers, the son has superpowers. So what you thought was just a story about genuine people trying to escape to come to the U.S. and like have a better life ends up having a superhero story in it. And so essentially what this issue is the boy trying to figure out where he is, establish just a base of like, you know, he's in a completely new country. So we get that, but also him dealing with the fact that he has these glowing fire hands. Right? And so we see him evading basically ICE or, you know, the Border Patrol, trying to get a hold of his aunt who actually lives in the U.S., who's a U.S. citizen. And at one point he's able to actually get a hold of her. He goes into like a Mexican restaurant and gets a hold of a phone and calls her. And she's like, where are you at? And he says the name of a mall, and she's like, holy shit, that's 3 hours away. Stay put. I'm coming for you. And then we get a little bit of backstory with the mom and what they were really dealing with and the circumstances that they were leaving and why they left, which is basically there was a drug cartel that was, you know, snatching up little boys and, you know, recruiting them to be part of the gang, you know, and if they didn't, they'd die. And so she didn't want that life for her son, so that's why they fled. And they left, you know, family. They left the mom's mother there. You know, she couldn't go on the trip, so we get a little bit of that. And then we also get the mother. We connect with the mother in the story. You know, she's still dealing with not knowing where her son is and that she's actually being deported back to Guatemala without her son. So a lot of social injustice going on here. Like, you separate your children and then we're shipping you back, but the child's going to stay here. Like, some pretty jacked up shit. Which, you know, is actually happening right now. So that's where this comic kind of hits home. Intended their pun. With what's currently going on. So the son ends up getting a hold of the aunt. The aunt picks him up. And she's like, oh, Jaimito, I'm so glad you're safe. But then she basically drops another truth bomb on him and says, by the way, I know you have superpowers. And the reason why I know this is because your father had powers too, just like you. Bum, bum, bum. And that's where the issue basically ends. Like, she's like, I'll train you. Yeah. And also letting him know that his mother has been deported, or she's being deported as we speak, back to Guatemala. You know, I wasn't going to pick up this issue originally, but then I forgot that I ordered it on Comic Hub, and I'm kind of glad I picked it up. I'm really intrigued with the story. I will say the artwork is definitely unique, but it's not hindering me.
Yeah, it's not my favorite art style, but it's not terrible. It's definitely, like, I think it gets the job done.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that this is a fun little independent. Like, I enjoy that we can have some type of social discourse and an intriguing story at the same time. It doesn't feel like, to me, it doesn't feel like pandering, but it also, I like that there's like each of these first 2 issues has had like a little twist at the end that we weren't expecting. Like, I was definitely not expecting her to be like, oh yeah, by the way, I definitely know about the powers. Like, your dad had them too. Like, it's a family thing. I will say that even if this book wasn't, even if I wasn't enjoying it, after my experience this weekend, I would still be buying it just to be a petty bitch, because I came across some people on YouTube this weekend. There were a couple of books that, like, I just felt like I was like, man, is there anyone else covering these books? Like, surely there's someone else covering most of these books.
No.
And so
you got some commentators, didn't you?
Oh my god. I found some guys out there that were just literally analyzing every little thing in this book. They were literally talking about how this book proves that anyone that comes to the border and seeks asylum is a liar and a cheater and is just trying to break the system so that they can get into the country illegally. And I was just like, oh my god, like. And the thing is, like, this video probably had 20,000 views. I was just like, and I looked at 3 comments and was like, you know what? For my own mental health, I'm gonna have to move away from this.
You
like,
just walk away. Yeah.
I just can't. I can't deal with this. So, that's my own news on the story as well. But I'm enjoying the comic book so far. I like that we are doing both at the same time. So I'm interested for the next one.
Jaden goes, woo! Yep, there it is.
There it is.
All right, next up, we've got from Image Comics, Radiant Black, number 4. Huge spoiler warning. If you're reading this or you haven't read this issue yet, and just know that something gigantic happens in this book that nobody saw coming. Nobody saw it coming.
I didn't see it coming, but I don't look very hard.
Okay. Anyway, we finally get some action in this book, and it has consequence. Maybe not the consequence you're looking for. Patrick says also on home, says, that's crazy. I'm glad you're able to give a real review. No, I mean, that's what we try to do. Like, we're not going to be, we want to give a real review of books. Radiant Black, it's been a very slow trudge. And now, issue 3, we were kind of getting some more development, a little bit more movement. We're like, oh shit, where are we going? Right. And then this issue happens, and basically everything that has been established just got thrown out the fucking window.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree at all.
Well, I do, because we were told that this book is about this character who is a writer, a failed writer, and he's, a classic superhero kind of gained power story arc. You've been given this ability, right?
Who told you that's what this story was about?
Jacob.
Huh?
Jacob.
Jacob who?
At the store. The guy who's always right.
He's not the writer.
Anyway, I had that in mind because Jacob, he tells us every time he's right, we're wrong.
No.
So anyway, in this issue, our main character is like, you know what? I need to figure out these powers. I need to learn these powers. I'm going to start training. Montage. So that's what we get. And so we get the main character and his friend learning what the suit can do, how they can manipulate it. I will say, and I still hold this criticism to be true, I do not like the friend. I don't like the way he's written. He's annoying. I don't like
him. Oh, yeah, he's definitely annoying.
So while we're, before we're training, our main character has, what's the name of the main character? I want to say his name. I just don't remember.
You get one guess, and if you get it wrong, how dare you?
David.
Nathan. It's Nathan.
Anyway, Nathan has a dream, and he's basically visited by this giant robot, and it's like blurp, 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 talking to him in the Radiant Black language to the point where he actually starts to understand it. It's freaking him out. And it's saying like, hey, you've got this great responsibility, but in order to save your planet, you must kill it or him. And he's like, and the thing is like, do you comply? Because if you don't, your world will end. And it kind of ends that way. Like, he doesn't really give an answer in his dream. So after that, he goes and trains, and then I think the red Radiant Red shows up.
Yes,
and is like, you fucked with my bank heist. I'm gonna kick your ass. I know where you live. I know who you are. And so they start fighting. And chaos ensues. We get basically Kyle Higginson's version of Invincible, in the sense that, flying through a building has consequences. It doesn't just, you don't just fly through it and everyone's okay. And so while they're fighting, I think Nathan hits him in the head, and he can see his eye through the mask, and he looks scared. And so he kind of hesitates, and then the building starts falling around him. And so he's like, we got to save the building. And they're getting people out. And basically, Radiant Black, Nathan sacrifices his life, and he ends up dying in this issue because the building falls on him. And then the friend sees the black hole suck out of him, and he's like, I guess I'm gonna grab it. And he grabs it, and he's basically met with the same robot and asks the same questions. Like, you've got this great power, blah, blah, blah. Are you willing to kill somebody or kill this person in order to save your planet? And he's like, yes. That's how the issue ends.
I thought it was great.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. You're gonna get some polar opposites here. So basically the dream is reiterated like 3 times throughout the story. He basically says, like, our connection is final. The robot is talking to Nathan. It says our connection is final, but war is near, for the radiant. So that's what, we're just radiant. He will kill you and your entire planet. To die is to lose everything. Will you do what is required to save your species? Will you take his life? And both times Nathan hesitates. And eventually when he hesitates, he literally, his consciousness is in the, what did they call it? The existence? Is that what they call it at the beginning?
Something like that.
Yeah, the existence. And he's in this area, and Nathan won't answer. He just literally just looks down and closes his eyes, won't answer. And so he dies. And he literally says, will you do what is required? And he won't do it. And the friend is, before he takes the radiant, he is also brought in to the existence and is given the same thing. War is near, for the radiant, and he will kill you and your entire planet. To die is to lose everything. Will you do what is required to save your species? And his friend, without hesitation, says, "Yep." and then he grabs the radiant, and then it all goes to white. I loved it. I thought this was the best issue of Radiant Black yet. I think the reason why I liked it so much is because it's shaking things up. The previous issue 3 was interesting. I understand like your frustration because like the main character or the friend character, him as himself, is not like he's annoying. So like I do find the prospect of him being the main character unsettling. Like that could be a bad way to go. But I almost wonder if we're going to have a dynamic transformation of his characterization after the death of his friend and him becoming the Radiant.
I mean, the direction it can go in any direction. I mean, it can go, like you said, a dynamic change in the character's development. He could go on a fucking vengeful spree and try to kill Radiant Red. I don't know. I'm as much as I didn't like it, I will pick up the next issue because I want to see what happens. I don't know. And then the other thing I told you about, I think the other reason why I'm kind of down on this book in general is I feel like the way it's literally written, like the speech bubbles are written, it's dense, but not that that's not necessarily a criticism, but the way the words flow for me is really hard to read, and I get kind of caught up and lost, and my eyes get crossed. And I think that's probably my overall criticism of the book in general is just your flow of how you read the book to me is it's distracting. So I can't really get into it. There was a book that Ron over at the store mentioned, when we first started getting into comics, it was literally how comics, like there's an equation of how to write them and how to actually write the actual speech bubbles. And I feel like, and I can't remember what the name of the book is, but I feel like this book has ignored that, in my opinion.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, it's probably just my brain not working properly. That's probably what it is. So, anyway.
Well, there is your very two-sided review of Radiant Black.
Radiant Black number 4. All right. Next up, we've got ULTRAMEGA number 3. This is my pick of the week.
Oh, boy. And
I don't know if you can hear it. I doubt you can. That sucks. I don't know what's going on. I got to fix that. But this is my pick of the week. Not a surprise. I really, really enjoyed this issue. Talk about a hero and making sacrifices. That's what this issue is in a nutshell. We get a flashback to the day, or like, I don't know, even hours after the whole conflict with the original ULTRAMEGA. Let's see. Patrick really quick says, I like comic tropes channels. He explains comic book writing and panel layout nicely.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I like his channel too. It's good.
So essentially at the beginning of this book, we get, the aftermath of ULTRAMEGA and sacrificing himself and, laying waste to the city and it being covered in blood. And we find out that his son has devolved back into like a little like mini monster and that the mother is kind of morphing too. She's turning into a monster as well. And then we cut to the present where, supposedly his new son has been captured and now he is in the Kaiju Coliseum where he has to fight what kaijus are now, which are smaller versions of giant kaijus, yet they're still pretty big. Like they're still like 10 feet tall. Like they're still big.
Right. But they're not the like 500 foot tall things they used to be.
No, they're not fighting. They're not going to be fighting. They're not going to be breaking down buildings. Anyway.
Right.
So he's stuck in there. He's getting ready to fight. Essentially, he's got to fight for his life, and it's like reenacting what kaijus fight against the ULTRAMEGA. They're all there. He's wearing like an ULTRAMEGA suit, like a giant head mascot version.
Mm.
We also get in this book I don't think it's not his sister, but it's somebody that's taking care of him. She got captured in a previous book, and the kaijus captured him, and she finds out that the kaijus are actually creating giant kaiju mechs to start taking over the city again. So we get a little bit of subplot here of like what the kaiju are actually up to, because the ultimate goal is to become once what they were, which are giant monsters. And so basically this book is our main character fighting for his life with two other individuals who have been captured, who get killed fairly quickly.
Yes, very, very gruesomely.
One of them is super headstrong, and he's like, I pick you to fight. And it's this like really timid looking blob monster, which is called, I think it's literally
Bosch.
called Bosch.
Yeah.
And he's like got a spear, and he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass. And Bosch is like, Bosch? And then he like vomits out this, like, he basically vomits his stomach out and absorbs the guy and eats him and dissolves his body. And then he's like, Bosch? Yep. So that was a bad mistake. The other guy that is in the Coliseum literally pees his pants and is like, I don't want to fight. He tries to run away. He gets ripped in half. And so it's basically up to our main character, who I think he basically like, he's like, yeah, no, I'm going to fight. Like, I'm going to try my hardest to win. And so he basically, I don't remember. Yeah, he calls out one of them. He tries to kill him. He throws like a spear at him, and the monster, like the kaiju, dodges. And when he dodges, the spear goes into Bosch and just like
Yeah,
kills him. And like he sprays like acid, blood, and it ends up getting on the other monster. And then our character takes advantage of it.
Yeah, it like blinds him.
Yeah, and he fucking kills him, puts it through his head. The entire time this is happening, in our previous issue, the eyeball, this is so weird, but the eyeball that basically ULTRAMEGA uses to transform is looking for a new host. And he is seeing all this unfold. And he realizes that this new main character has what it takes, or at least seemingly seems that it has what it takes to become the new ULTRAMEGA. Mm-hmm. So he's able to escape. The main character is able to escape with the help of this eyeball, this ULTRAMEGA eyeball. And before they leave, he sees the body of one of the characters that was chasing them in the previous issue, who's working for the kaijus, but he's like succumbing to his disease. He's not able to turn into a kaiju, so his body's rotting. And so our main character saves that character. And so the eyeball is like, you're worthy. You're worthy of to be basically Ultra Mega. Come with me. And so they try to escape. As they're escaping, the monster that he thought he killed is pissed that he killed Bosch. Is that right? Was it Bosch or Boosh? Or I don't remember what the name of it.
Something like that.
And so before he can escape, he gets grabbed by the monster, and the dude essentially rips the side of his stomach out.
Yeah.
And like we got intestines flying, and the kid falls into the sewer and just flap hits the floor. And the issue ends with the eyeball basically saying like, "Listen, you did a really courageous thing. You are worthy, but you're dying too."
Right.
And he just goes, "I don't know how to help." Like, that's how the issue ends. So we don't know how it's going to resolve. This issue, all like the previous issues, read like a fucking awesome anime. It's got everything. It's got character development. It's got action. It's gross. It's fun. It's humorous. The Jason Heron on the writing and the artwork, fantastic. David Stewart on the coloring, absolutely phenomenal. If you're not reading Ultra Mega right now, go get yourself a second or third printing, whichever is at the LCS. If you're fortunate enough to get a hold of a first print for cover price, do it. I think we found out in our comic book haul video, somebody commented, or on our previous Ultra Mega video, this is going to 8 issues. So
I think it was Stefan that said that.
Right. Perfect. Stefan, thank you so much. I'm so excited. You know, I was going to be really bummed if this was going to end at issue 4, and I kind of hope it goes past 8. I think this is a fantastic book, and I think you have a lot of avenues to go storytelling wise. So again, cannot recommend this book enough. This is my pick of the week. I love it. I love it so much. It's so much fun. Did you like it? You liked it?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I'm surprised again still that this is a book that's consistently holding my attention, just because it's not usually my style. But you know, I enjoy it a lot. I think it's a very easy book to read. Like we're not dealing with over the top heady issues. It's just gorgeous to look at. It flows really well. And it still is telling an interesting story that I want to see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm. Also, I mean, it's $7.99, but this book feels good. Like when I pick it up, I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna really read this and like get into it. Like it's thick, but in a good way. Like I never like turn the page and go like, I gotta get through this book. I'm like, yeah, give me more, please. Stone says it wasn't me, but I am pumped for issues. Damn it. Somebody said it on our videos.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Ultra Mega number 3. Again, cannot recommend it more enough. You need to go pick this up if you're into any of those things, because you could be not even into kaijus, and I guarantee you'll love this book. So, all right, on to our Boom Studio books. We've got Lila Star, issue number 2 from Ram V. This one was also my almost extremely close top 3, almost my pick of the week.
Yeah, this one was very good.
Go for it.
So this one is picking up with Lila, having died in the first issue, and now she is sitting down talking to a crow. And this particular crow is a deaf crow that carries spirits away after they die. And they're sitting on top of a high building, kind of looking across the skyline, and she tells the crow, basically about like what's happened to her in the first issue. Like, a kid was born that's supposed to, end death essentially, and that made her job obsolete. And so she thought when she became a human, she would go and kill the baby, and then when she got there, she realized that she couldn't do it. And she explains it all, and the bird goes, "Yeesh," which I found that to be absolutely hilarious. Also, in the very beginning, she's talking to the crow, and she's like, he says, "Who?" And she's like, "Isn't that what owls say?" And he says, "What?" And she's like, "You're a really weird crow." And he's like, "Well, I've never seen a talking person before." And then she just kind of looks at him like, because he's a talking crow, like he's the one that shouldn't be talking. Anyway, then we get this really, basically he invites her and says, "Hey, like come to a funeral with me, and I'll show you what I do." And she's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Then we break into the meat of the story, which is really a glimpse into Darius's life. We see him as an 8-year-old child, and we see his relationship that he has with the man that works on his family's
farm or plantation,
farm sort of thing. Yeah, they have mangoes and jackfruits and stuff. And he's, basically like a borderline indentured servant, like, old school style. Comes and works hard all day and basically gets his nothing pay. He's not allowed to come in the house or use their bathroom. He can't take any of the fruit that he harvests, anything like that. But despite all of these hardships, the man ends up, quasi raising Darius for a while. He talks about how much he looks forward to hanging out with him and how he always answers his questions for him and always helps him out and explains things to him. And it just, it shows like this great relationship that they have together. But eventually Darius and his family get a new house, and so they have to move away. And we find out that the funeral that the crow is going to is actually the funeral of this man. And Darius has taken it upon himself to run away so that he can attend the funeral. And I essentially they go to the funeral. At one point, Darius and Lila talk for just a second. So it's very interesting how their paths are crossing. So it's 8 years, obviously, since the first issue. He kind of takes off. She goes after him, gets lost in the crowd, where she sort of gets tangled up in the ceremony of it all and goes to start put marigolds in the water like everyone else is, and gets swept away into the water. And depending on how you want to interpret it, either by that says that the water, I'm trying to think of the exact wording. I think it says it better than I can. It says the water remembers, the water has memory of all things committed to it. And since she was essentially death, she's committed a lot of death to these waters. And so you could either, say that she was swept away by the death, or it was just a riptide or whatever. But
yeah. That panel where the hands are grabbing her ankle, like there are just thousands of hands going after her. Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then she kind of drowns. I think it's really funny. The crow picks her up and she's like, "Oh, thanks for saving me." And he's like, "What? I'm a funeral crow. What are you talking about?" And she's like,
"You done dead."
And then the last panel is her waking up, and the guy that saved her the first time, I can't remember what he was the god of, but the god that saved her the first time is there again. He's like, "I really can't keep bringing you back. I'm going to get in trouble with the guys at the top." And then at the very bottom it says 12 years from the day that Lila Starr drowned. So we know issue 3 is going to be 12 years in the future. We're going to see a 20-year-old Darius. I think this book has tremendous heart and a lot of truthfully I enjoy the glimpse into a culture that is not mine, and getting to I genuinely was looking up some of these burial rituals just because I wanted to know. So you see a panel of his 2 large toes tied together, and I was like, what does that mean? And apparently in Hindu, and this is rough, so don't hold me to it, but I believe it's something like the spirit is afraid to leave the body, and so in order for it to not escape out the bottom of the body, they tie the toes together so that it's forced to exit the body. You can't go hide at the bottom, essentially. Nice. And I just think it's really cool that we get an introduction, thank you, to a culture that's not ours. That we get an insight to other worlds.
it's extremely refreshing, and the storytelling is extremely refreshing. You're right. Like we know nothing of this. Like I think it's in a different vein than comparative to like when we complain about the gods of Olympus being in Guardians, or dealing with Wonder Woman in Valhalla. We're not subjected or exposed to these things, so it's extremely refreshing for us. And obviously Ram is extremely comfortable in telling the story. It's a story that he's wanted to tell. And it's just, on top of that, you've got such a vibrant book, color-wise and artistically. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very fun book to look at too. There's never a dull moment in the book, color-wise or art-wise. But Ram is killing it. I think it tells me more that I need to start picking up more of his stuff. I need to be exposed to more of his works, because Lila Starr. Fantastic. And then this cover, I can't stop looking at it. It's just such a good looking cover. I think very intriguing, and I am so surprised that we didn't see this coming. Like we said, we didn't even think about Lila Starr #1. And then again, we shout out to Robbie on Pop Culture Philosophers. He was like, go pick it up. And we're like, holy shit, we missed it. So we had to go get it.
Yep.
This is another one of those books that I read immediately rather than like through the order. So, very good book. Can't wait for issue 3. All right, our last book of the night will be quick. Boom Studios. We Only Find Them Dead, #6. We had a couple months off on this issue. I was a little worried about that, and I feel like that was kind of confirmed in this book. Extremely confused. Don't know what the hell's going on. I did like the ending, though. I will say that. But, we're 50 years into the future from issue 5. It's basically confirmed that George, our main character from the first issue, ascended into godhood. And now his body is back, but he's dead. Or at least it's perceived that he's dead. And they haven't mined the body like they usually do. They haven't mined it for flesh. We've actually got a community that is worshiping his body.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole civilization that is built around him. That's essentially what this issue is. But then we have a new character who we don't know what her deal is, but she wants to get close to George's body. And so she's kind of faking her way through it, basically saying she is a true believer. She is a disciple of George as a god. And so she just really wants to get close. And the closest she can get to it is a disciple of George, the chosen of this god, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this assessment, but I think that character that we meet towards the end of the book, who's one of the chosen, is his former lover.
Yeah, the one that he had a relationship with.
Yeah. So she gets an audience with this person, and when the doors close and the security leaves, she reveals herself as a fraud and says, basically, you're my prisoner now. You're going to help me figure out a way to steal George's body.
Yeah.
Blah. That's this issue in a nutshell. There is a lot of deposition going on in this book. There's a lot of shit that us as readers, I don't think I'm almost positive we don't know what the hell's going on, and that's on purpose. It's not discouraging me to say I'm not going to pick up the next issue. I want to know what's going on, but I kind of want Ewing to I don't want him to dumb it down, but I just want to know. Like I don't want to feel foggy, at least not in the next issue.
Yeah, it's hard to combat the natural fogginess that you feel when not reading a series for a few months. And then I think this is a natural foggy issue as it is because of the time jump. So I do think it was a little bit of a miss there. However, I am pretty excited about where we're going with this. I like that. I'm really intrigued by this idea that there is a cult following that has popped up on the outskirts of civilization that is essentially worshiping Malik and preserving his body. The one thing that I am worried about as a selfish reader is that we're gonna get a lot of this overall story, but like one thing that I really want about this is I want some backstory of the universe that we're in. Like I want some Jonathan Hickman infographics and charts and maps and like help me understand like where are we at literally in the galaxy? Where are we at right now? Where am I at compared to where most humans live? What like what's going on? Am I like, you know, they mention like the outer rim and outskirts and like the people out here are fanatics and like I love that, but like I need a little bit more to feel like to dissipate that fog, to make it feel like I understand what's going on.
Just a little bit more connectivity.
Yeah. So who knows? Because this so far we haven't had a very connective tissue, slight type feel to this story.
We got a little bit with like the family drama, right? And we talked about that when we first got into the book. Like, where could this book go? And we had finally gotten some resolve in issue 5, but now like, okay, we're not talking about that now. We're going jumping 50 years. And yeah, you're right. Like, there's a natural fog because we're so disconnected from the last issue. And then Ewing was like, fog, you know, like can't see shit. Stefan says, I do like the new protagonist. No, I am intrigued by that character. I also like the guilt trip of like, yeah, Stefan, would you eat a god steak? Like, well, yeah, if you're privileged enough, like if you're part of the rich elite that actually get to eat the god steak. I think I like that whole guilt trip of like, I'm sorry, I wasn't privileged enough to eat god steak. I do like that aspect of the book. DeMio though, artwork fantastic. Continues to kill it. I will be picking up issue 7. I'm not gonna. It didn't deter me to be like, yeah, I'm out. Like I know some people got this book and they were like, I'm done. That has happened amongst the community, and that's fine. But I just feel like I'm still invested. I want to keep going.
I trust Al Ewing way more than that.
Yeah. So that is it for May 19th. On to the next one. Tomorrow we start it all over next week. That's not right. What the?
Oh my gosh. Going into the void here.
Man, I am, dude. Show is. We moved to Sunday and it's just all chaos. Anyway, I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's gonna be our show for this week. Make sure to look on Wednesday for our comic book haul video for May 26th. And like we said at the beginning of the show, we have moved the shows to Sundays now. So we will not be on Fridays anymore. We'll be on Sunday at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time here on YouTube. So make sure to, be here on Sunday, not Friday. Also, if you're not subbed to the channel, if you're watching this as a past episode, make sure to hit that sub button, hit that bell, give us a like, comment in the chat, give us a comment. Yep. And as always, read more comics. We'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.